Hey guys, it's Flo. For those of you who don't know me, I'm an illustrator and graphic designer. And last year I created a series called The Art of Sketchnoting, where I talk about the basics of sketchnoting. So if you have no idea what I'm talking about, I highly recommend checking it out. I'll put the link in the description box for you guys. Editing flow here, just a little disclaimer. I did create The Art of Sketchnoting in 2024. Now it's 2026 and I recorded this video that you're watching right now in 2025 December. So yeah, technically it's 2 years now. That being said, I'm back and I hope I can create some really cool content for you guys, and I'm excited for this year. Back to the video. Now today, we're not going to talk about the basics, but instead I'm going to take you guys along as I sketchnote, and for that I chose a TED Talk about the impact of social media on our time. I haven't listened to it yet, just read the title essentially. I'll put the link in the description as well for that if you want to check it out later. In general, I would say if you want to practice sketchnoting, you can really do that with most audio and video content, such as a documentary, YouTube videos, a lecture. It's not that hard of a word really, is it? Or a podcast even. Before we get right into it, I thought I'd show you guys what I'm going to use today. I love using the Blackliner from Molotow in round, as well as the brush pen from Ecoline. As you can see, it was got loved very well. And I have a notebook that I regularly use. But honestly, if you don't have any of that at home or at hand, use copy paper and a pen. Really, for like, especially if you're starting out, that's all you need. No need to invest heavily into equipment here, I reckon. You could even try out sticky notes if you really wanted to. I've done that before. You run out of space quite quickly, but well, you know, you just do you. Now, before I keep on yapping, I would say let's get right into it, and I'll see you after the sketch note. Welcome to my notebook, and I'm gonna walk you through what I'm doing and thinking while I'm sketchnoting. And I like to start this process by defining which sketchnoting template and which layout I'm gonna use. And if you have no idea what I'm talking about right now, I highly recommend checking out The Art of Sketchnoting. So for this sketchnote, I decided to go with the map template in combination with the grid layout. I chose the map layout because I like to use them when someone, tells some sort of story, or when I'm not quite sure where the presentation is going. And I chose the grid layout to balance out the structure of the map and just help the viewer to navigate and understand the whole topic of the talk a bit better. The first thing I'm going to draw on my piece of paper is a little start beacon, and I do that especially when I use the map template to guide the viewer and show them where they have to start reading. That is especially important when you want to start in a spot other than the top left, which is where the reading direction of a lot of languages start. Now I connect different points on the map with a dotted line, like you would when you draw a treasure map. In this TED Talk, the speaker used a diagram as an eye-opener. I decided to draw a simplified version of that diagram so that I can put the focus on different aspects of the diagram by choosing different font sizes. So on the side, you see me draw little small titles, and then in the middle there's a big word. In this case it's free time, which immediately draws people to it, but it also reminds them of that eye-opener and essentially the hook of the whole talk is. I decided to put the quintessence of the diagram into a new box. So when I say box, I mean that I imagine a grid on the paper and all the individual fields I see as a box. So I already planned out in my head at this point that I want to have 3 rows with 4 boxes each. You could technically draw that visually if you wanted to, but I just envision it in my head. Now, to highlight the main points of the diagram, I decided to use different types of fonts and different font sizes. if you want to learn more about fonts, check out The Art of Sketchnoting. I know I've already said that 2 times in this video. I'll link that video down in the description as well, because I feel like fonts really can change your sketchnoting game. It really adds some personality if you use different fonts, and that can be, you know, just print letters or more calligraphy letters, or something that you just come up with yourself. I mean, that works too. Now you might have noticed that I used a lot of text here, but on the 4th box in the first row, I decided to finally put another icon, and this icon is going to be a person. And when I draw people, unless I want to show specific traits, such as gender or race, or it could be like something the person's wearing, whatever, I try to keep it as neutral as possible to not distract from the actual facts that I want to bring across. So that's why this person just is, I guess it looks a bit like a, you know, like a playing figurine that you would play Sorry with. Now, while I was listening to this TED Talk, there was a pretty mind-blowing fact, and I like to take mind-blowing facts or just important facts and put them in separate boxes. So in this case, it was that if an 18-year-old lives till 90 and spends 93% of his free time on social media, he would have spent 26 years of his life on social media, which is just, I mean, that's just crazy. So I wanted to give that fact some room to stand out, and for that I decided to use really clear lines, which makes it really easy to read, and just use a bigger font as well to write, in this case the number 26. And I guess you could work with shadows here as well, like you could use that box that I put the 26 in and frame it with a shadow, just to emphasize it even more. But you don't have to do that. I mean, I didn't. So next, the speaker talked about how that constant distraction in social media doesn't only affect how long we are entertained for, but also how it changes our worldview and our values. Essentially, what he's describing is how social media, or that excessive consumption of social media, can rewire our brains. And I thought it was really interesting because he didn't actually use that word rewiring. That's something I added myself, and that's something really cool you can do when you sketchnote. You can just add your own thoughts or implied meaning, and that's because everything that we know we learned at some point, and when you connect some new information with something you already know, it actually sticks a lot better. And that's exactly what I did here. Now let's talk a bit about reduction. A big part of sketchnoting is that words can be reduced into a single image. So the speaker talked quite a bit about values and the worldview that changes through social media. Really, or at least how I understood it, is that your worth quite often, or we think that our worth depends on the amount of likes we get and comments we get. And I just summarized that by drawing the like heart that you quite often see on Instagram. Now let's talk about something that I think for many people is a pretty big fear when they sketchnote, and that is making spelling mistakes. I don't know how you feel, but I make quite a few spelling mistakes. Yes, I'm looking at you, Constant with a K. It's my German brain kicking in. And I think that's due to the fact that I'm bilingual, but also I had a really hard time spelling in school. And only thanks to my mum, my spelling and my grammar is somewhat decent now. But my point is, you don't have to panic. And if you do make a spelling mistake, so what? It happens. It's fine. It's okay. And it's also completely normal to look up words. Like in this case, I looked up how to spell unhealthy. I know that's a really easy word actually, but in that moment I just forgot how to spell it. Wasn't sure if there has to be an A or not. So don't stress yourself too much about spelling. It's totally normal to make mistakes, and it's fine. People will see it and they're probably going to tell you, but I feel like, you know, when you sketchnote, that's already so hard on the brain that you're just gonna show yourself some grace. Now, another thing I want to talk about is framing and I guess visual sandwiches. So framing is essentially just when you put some sort of frame or box around what you just drew or written, and that sets whatever you created apart from other frames in that sketch note and makes it stand out. Now, if you look at my first row, you have a box, then you have a freestanding element, and then you have a box again. So it's essentially like a sandwich, and if you keep doing that in a grid pattern, you create a really nice pattern in general. Another thing I wanted to talk about is the weight of an icon. So you can give an icon more weight by just simply coloring them in, like I did here with the send timer. And through that, you just create visual signals that, just makes it easier for the viewer to understand what you're actually trying to say. And I wish I would have done that for the next box in the grid, because it's a wee bit messy and there's not enough contrast. And obviously you can always go in and fix that later, but I guess in the moment I just didn't think of it. So now that box doesn't have a lot of contrast and it looks kind of messy. And you use that same principle of contrast for the takeaways of the talk. So I drew the numbers 1 and 2 and then just colored in the background to make those takeaways stand out more essentially. Now you might think that the sketch note is finished now, but actually we still have to add the title. And as I told you guys earlier, that's why I left the spot at the top free. And quite often I like to add my own title, but I actually really like the title of the video, so I just kept the original title. Last but not least, it's time to finally add some color. That is actually quite straightforward. You just want to add color to whatever you want to highlight. It's a bit like what you would do when you read a textbook, and you just have to mark the important information, and the eye of the viewer will automatically be guided to what you highlighted. You can even create new shapes like beams that indicate light, or dotted lines or squares, or whatever you feel like fits best to your sketch note. The only tip I would give you is don't overdo it, because if you add too much color, you actually stop directing the focus on important facts and it just tends to get a bit messy. Now, if you end up watching the TED Talk I did the sketch note on, you might notice that it's actually a lot shorter than my sketch note. And I just want to say a couple of things to that. So first, TED Talks, they are presentations held quite often in front of an audience, and they are heavily scripted. Like, you notice that people don't say any filler words in them, and that makes you, as a sketch note, have to sketch note really, really fast compared to real life scenarios like a lecture or maybe a podcast or something similar to that. So don't feel bad if you have to pause your TED Talk or your scripted video. I do that too. I did it during this video as well, just to keep up. You can obviously, challenge yourself and not pause the video, but your sketchnote is probably not going to look as neat. So I would definitely recommend sketchnoting to videos or podcasts that are less scripted if you don't want to pause it. So whenever I finish a sketch note, I like to take 5 minutes afterwards to really finish it and to add color, fix spelling mistakes, or just add more detail as well. In the end, sketchnoting is a skill that you can practice, may that be writing really quickly or drawing quickly, and you get better the more you do it. So you get better over time, and practice probably doesn't make perfect, and sketch notes don't have to be perfect at all. but I just want to tell you that if you're starting to get into it right now, just have some grace with yourself. Now, if you have any questions how I created this sketchnote, feel free to just leave a comment and ask those questions, and I'll try to answer them. And if there's anything else you want to know about sketchnoting that I haven't talked about yet, just let me know in the comments as well. I'm gladly making some more sketchnoting videos. Well, I hope that helped you guys a little bit to understand how to sketchnote a little bit better. And if it did, I would really appreciate if you could like this video and subscribe to my channel. That would really help me. Now, before I go, I just wanted to say that I'm thinking of creating a similar video to this one, but instead of using, pen and paper, I want to be using my iPad and Procreate. I know that is a bit more specific, but if it's a topic that interests you, please let me know in the comments, and I'll see you next time. Bye.